Okay, so today we are going to talk about writing intros and conclusions. Uh, Something that I don't know if you're like me, but I save it for last because I don't enjoy writing them. And plus, what you write in the body of your paper is going to shape what your intro and your conclusion are going to say as well. So that's usually a good idea, if not to wait till the last to write them, to at least go back and review them again after you've finished everything and make sure that it's really introducing and concluding everything that you've said in your body paragraphs. So, just some announcements. Remember that peer review is next week in class, so we'll be doing it on Tuesday. So, those of you that come in on Tuesdays, we will be, you come to class on Tuesday, we will be doing it actually in class. Last time it was Thursday class. Next time it will be both classes, but this time just be prepared. You're going to be posting your peer review draft, which is a full draft, onto the discussion board on Monday. And there's also a D2L Dropbox for your peer review draft that you'll also be posting that on Monday. So those are due Monday by midnight. I have also pushed the due date for your literature review back a couple of days. It was Wednesday the 21st, but to give you a little bit more time on your discussion on your peer review, I am giving you until Friday the 23rd. So you got a couple extra days there. Don't forget to post your voting selfie for extra credit. However you happen to be voting. If you vote in person, do a selfie with your I voted sticker. Please do not take a selfie in the voting booth with your ballot, because I think that that may even be against the law or something. I'm not really sure exactly what the deal is, but that can that can throw your vote out if you do that kind of thing. So make sure, just wait till afterwards and take a picture with your sticker. Or if you are voting via mail-in or absentee, just take a picture with your ballot. With your ballot envelope. I don't need to know who you voted for. I'm not asking who you voted for. Don't send me a picture of your actual ballot. Just either the envelope or the sticker. Okay, and remember to do your discussion and quiz for attendance, like I remind you every week. So let's start talking about introductions. So what's the purpose of the introduction? It establishes your voice, tone, or your attitude toward the subject. I don't know why it chose this little tongue here. These little icons come up on their own, I guess, when it says voice, and they're like, oh, okay, let's put a tongue in there. It also introduces the general topic of the essay. So reading that intro, I'm going to know how you feel about the topic, what the topic is, and it's also going to state your thesis that you will go on to support in your body paragraphs. We've talked about the body paragraphs and how to develop that support, but your thesis should be the which sentence? The last sentence. The one last sentence in your introduction, that is your thesis. That's where I'm going to be looking for it. So make sure that's where you put it. So when you're looking at the format of the introduction, they call it the funnel method, and this is a picture that was in the book. You're going to begin with an engaging statement devised to provoke your reader's interest. So in the next slide, we're going to talk about some different ways to do that, but it should be an attention grabber, something that starts right off and grabs the attention of the reader. And it's going to be a more broad or general statement as well. So remember, you're not going to start out really specific. You're going to start out with a fairly general statement about your topic. And then as you go through your introduction, you're going to get more specific and more specific. So after your hook, as we talked about when we talked about research scaffolding, or your attention grabbing statement, then you're going to introduce the reader to your topic by stating some general facts or ideas about the subject, and you're going to get a little bit more specific and a little bit more specific as you go towards your thesis. So as you narrow the focus and you move to your thesis, then the thesis sentence, the last sentence in that intro, is going to be your most specific sentence in that intro. So you start out really broad, get a little bit, to start talking about that subject, your topic, and then you're going to get more specific as you head toward that thesis. So real wide to real pointy. That is why it's upside down triangle, or the funnel method. So different ways to grab your reader's attention. You could appeal to their emotions. You could use logic. You could begin with a provocative question that you later answer. This is a pet peeve of mine. Please don't do this. If you ask a question at some point. I want to see an answer to that question. Don't just ask all these questions and then not give me an answer. So if there's a question mark anywhere in your paper, I'm going to expect there to be an answer to that question in there as well. So you can begin with a provocative question. A lot of writers in these classes usually do that, where they're like, how would it be if, now definitely don't say how would you feel if, because again, you're not using second person, so you shouldn't be using the word you in there. So make sure even when you're asking those questions, you're not using that second person. You're not addressing the audience directly like that. But you start with a provocative question or an opinion. You could start with a startling statistic or a surprising fact. Those are really my favorite. I like to be shocked by, can't believe this is true. Those are the kind of things that really grab my attention. Raising a question or series of questions, which again, you better answer somewhere. Don't just give me a bunch of rhetorical questions and not answer them. Presenting an explanation or a rationalization for your essay. So in other words, why you think the topic's important without using your I or me. You just state out this topic is important because. Opening with a relevant quotation or incident. So if you find a really interesting quote in one of your sources, or maybe a historical quote by a famous person, that a lot of people know, quotes that are very familiar to people, you could start out with that quote if it's related to your topic and your research question. Opening with or also back to the quotation or incident, if you're talking about, a lot of people are talking about racism and police brutality and things that are happening in the law and the news these days. So if you start out with something, you specifically talking about a particular incident that sparked your interest or sparked your anger, or really drove your idea for the research question, that might be something you may want to start with as well. Open with a striking image that could be related to the incident, or a fact, or surprising fact or statistic about it, or including a personal anecdote. Again, be careful with that. You don't want to use a lot of I and me when you're talking in your research writing. So if you try to find a reason to use I or me in there, check with me first to see if that's something that's going to work for this particular assignment, because you really want to avoid that as much as you can. So this is an example from the book. So this particular person is writing about technology. So play Atari on a General Electric brand television set, maybe watch Dynasty, or read old newspaper articles on microfiche at the library. 25 years ago, and that was more than 25 years ago, because I know most of y'all don't even know what most of the stuff that they were just talking about is. The average college student did not have many options when it came to the entertainment in the form of technology. So you see how they kind of started out with some questions there, obviously related to, hey, how are you going to pass the time? How are you going to relate to technology back in the day? But it also is kind of a striking image, because reading that, if you're a young person today, I know what it is, because I know, I remember when Dynasty was on, and what microfiche is. And but if you're a young person today, you may read that and go, what are you talking about? And so it's thought-provoking for you, and so it draws your attention. So the average college student did not have many options when it came to entertainment in the form of technology. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the digital age has revolutionized the way people entertain themselves. In today's rapidly evolving world of digital technology, consumers are bombarded with endless options for how they do most everything, from buying and reading books to taking and developing photographs. In a society that is obsessed with digital means of entertainment, it is easy for the average person to become baffled. So you see how we're starting out really general and kind of talking about, okay, this is what entertainment related to technology, and then we're getting a little bit more specific and a little bit more specific, talking about, okay, that was the way it used to be, now it is now, this is how it is now, and here's starting to present the problem, like, hey, there's a lot of options here, and that people are obsessed with digital means of entertainment. So you see how it's getting a little bit more specific as it gets down to the thesis, which is the last sentence in here. Everyone wants the newest and best technology, but the choices are many and the specifications are often confusing. One problem with that thesis statement is everyone wants the newest and best digital technology. Don't say everyone, because that's making an assumption about your audience. My grandma doesn't want the newest and best digital technology, so you can't say everyone. So just be careful when you're going back and revising your thesis and revising your paper, to look for words like that where you're kind of you're including every single person into something, or you're excluding every single person. You also don't want to say nobody, because a lot of times that's not true. So make sure that you're careful with that. So that's a introduction to a paper about technology. Let's look at conclusions. So it is important to put as much effort into the conclusion as you do the intro. A lot of times people will have a very long intro, and then when you get to the conclusion, it's like 2 sentences long. So you need to put the same amount of effort in there, and they should be about the same length. And I know conclusions tend to be harder because you've kind of repeated yourself over and over again throughout your essay, and now you're like, oh great, now I have to do a whole nother paragraph where I'm repeating myself again and telling you what I've already told you. But yes, that's what you got to do. So do it. Anatomy of a good conclusion. So first thing you're going to do is restate your thesis at the beginning of your conclusion, but use different words. I don't want to see a word for word repeat of your thesis, but you're going to say it in a different way. But this is going to help remind your reader, okay, this is the argument that we've been talking about through this whole thing. So you've got to draw their attention back to that argument, and it helps you show that you are, kind of summing up what you've already said in the supporting paragraphs and bringing it back to that argument. Then review your main points and emphasize the importance of the topic. These sentences should progressively broaden the focus of your thesis and maneuver your readers out of the essay. So you restate your thesis, and then you kind of tell me again what the main argument, the main points, the main reasons for your argument are that you've already talked about in your supporting paragraphs. Then you want to end on an interesting note. So that could be what we call a call to action, which is like kind of saying like it's important for people to do these things, or it's important to pay attention to this fact, or it's something should be done about this issue that you're talking about. So a strong closing statement will cause the readers to continue thinking about the implications of your essay. It will make your conclusion and thus your essay more memorable. Or you can another powerful technique is to challenge your readers to make a change in either their thoughts or their actions. So challenging your readers to see the subject through new eyes is a powerful way to ease yourself and your readers out of the essay. So giving a powerful final thought that kind of sums up your argument, sums up everything you said, sums up the importance of the topic and why you even looked at it in the first place. Or giving that call to action where you're saying like this is an issue and something should be done about it. So they had the funnel figure or the picture in the book, but for some reason you can't find one for the conclusion, which should go the opposite direction of your, so it's upside down funnel, or reverse funnel, if you will. It should go the opposite way of your intro. So again, you're restating your thesis in new words, again, not word for word, like you did in your intro, but restate it, remind the audience of what your thesis is. Then you're going to review those main supporting points, and then you end with a final thought or a call to action. So you're going to start out really specific with your thesis, and then you're going to get broader and broader. So that's how it's the reverse funnel. Intro, you started general, got specific. Conclusion, you start specific and get more general. You want to avoid the following things in your conclusion. Don't tell me new material. Don't start a new supporting point. Don't introduce a lot of new stuff in there. The whole point of the conclusion is to sum up what you've already said, not to bring in new stuff. So when you raise new points, you may make your reader want more information, which you could not possibly provide in the limited space of your final paragraph. So make sure if you have all the supporting points that you want to make them up in those supporting paragraphs. Don't put it in your conclusion. Don't contradict your thesis. Contradicting or changing your thesis statement causes your readers to think that you do not actually have a conviction about your topic. They don't believe you. If you turn around and you contradict your thesis, then everything that you've just done trying to support that thesis is gone. So make sure you're not turning around going, actually, this might be a better, if you think differently after you get to the end of your essay, then change your main thesis and go the other direction with your argument rather than starting one part of the argument one way and then ending it and switching to the other side. Don't change your thesis. When you change sides or open up your point of view in the conclusion, your reader becomes less inclined to believe your original argument. So again, stick to your thesis and stick to your argument, because that's the whole point, is you're supporting that argument and you are trying to help the reader believe and to come to your side of the argument. Don't use apologies or disclaimers. I don't want to say like, oh, it's hard to really prove this thing, or I'm sorry, this argument isn't very good. You'll see people say that. It's like, I don't, I don't think I did a very good job with this. And don't do that. Believe in your argument. Believe in your writing. Don't apologize for your point of view. Don't apologize for your argument. That's the whole point, is you've spent pages and pages proving your argument. So don't apologize for it. That's your argument. That's your point of view. And you should stick to it. So make sure that, it just negates everything that you've just done if you apologize or if you turn around and change your point of view. So as it says there, effective writers stand by their thesis statement and do not stray from it. And you are all effective writers. All right, so here's an example of the conclusion that goes to that intro paragraph we just read. In a society fixated on the latest and smartest digital technology, a consumer can easily become confused by the countless options and specifications. So if you look back at the, I guess we can go back and look at that. So the thesis statement there was, come on. Everyone wants the newest and best digital technology, but the choices are many and the specifications are often confusing. So you see how that is a restated version of that same thesis statement. It's not word for word, but it's reminding the audience, okay, this is what we're talking about, that everybody wants the new stuff, but it can be confusing. The ever-changing state of digital technology challenges consumers with its updates and add-ons and expanding markets and incompatible formats and restrictions, a fact that is complicated by salesmen who want to sell them anything. In a world that is increasingly driven by instant gratification, it's easy for people to buy the first thing they see. The solution for many people should be to avoid buying on impulse. Consumers should think about what they really need, not what is advertised. So you can kind of tell, even though we don't have the middle of this particular essay, you can tell that some of the things that this person has been talking about salesmen that are just trying to sell stuff. There's constantly add-ons, and that the market's expanding, and that you have to figure out what format, if you live in an Android world and versus a Mac iOS world, you got to figure out the different things. I'm sure those things were discussed in there. And then we've got the solution there that people should avoid buying on impulse. And so this, the final thought here is consumers should think about what they really need, not what is advertised. And so that's the kind of final thought that sends you off to, okay, well, this is possibly the solution for this technological world. Okay, so your assignments, remember your peer review again. That draft is due on Monday to the D2L Dropbox and the discussion board. It should be a full draft, 3 to 4 pages. Complete the weekly quiz and discussion post. Make sure you're doing that. And again, your final draft of the literature review is going to be due Friday, 10/23. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.